You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, and our special guest is offensive line coach Frank Pollack. He talks about everything offensive line, talks about the depth, the offensive line. In this particular podcast, this occurred before the signing of Orlando Brown. We do have another podcast with Frank Pollack that deals with that signing pretty detailed in that regard. So urge you to listen to that one as well. Frank Pollack handles that beautifully, as well as this one. Frank Pollack talks about free agents that are out there. He talks about the rookie class and the state of the union overall with respect to the offensive line. It's a must listen, as well as the Orlando Brown podcast with Frank Pollack is a must listen too. So Frank Pollack is our superstar. Thanks for joining us once again in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. As always, coming to you from our outstanding studios provided by First Star Logistics as well. And our guest is a very special guest because this guy, in my mind, is the best offensive line coach in the National Football League. He's a run game coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. He is none other than Mr. Frank Pollack. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Lap. Good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Good to see you. Tell you, Coach, man, you had a run going with the O-line this year. I mean, for a good part of the season, all five starters are taking every snap. I'm like, man, this is rare. This is unusual. And then boom, boom, boom. You know, three games in a row. You're down a guy. Have you ever had an experience like that, a season like that was going along, so well with lack of injury, and then boom, 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 here they come?
Yeah, I can't recall off the top of my head that many, especially like that all in a row, three guys. Nothing comes to mind. That's never fun to have to experience that.
No, I mean, that's an unbelievable thing to deal with. How well was that offensive line played together all those snaps? So, I mean, you go on a 10-game winning streak, and that group was on an 8-game streak, I think, in terms of wins in a row. It was really functioning, 5 playing like one, as you like to say, as an offensive line. They were doing that. I mean, how well were they playing in your estimation?
Yeah, I thought guys were really getting to know each other and getting into a groove with who they were playing next to and functioning really at a high level. We were starting to really hit our stride and was really pleased with where we were going. I know we kind of had a rough start there at the beginning, as we all kind of settled into our spots there as a unit. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, I felt we were competing at a high level.
It was a weird year. There was the injuries in the early stages, like you say, that kept a couple of guys, the right side of your offensive line from being intact and working with each other. Yet through any snaps through training camp, and very few snaps for the starters on the offensive line. And then boom, comes into sync and you start to grow. And then so the start and the finish were difficult, but that stretch in the middle, man, it showed what those guys can do when all hands are on deck and when they're healthy. This group, if you had to categorize your offensive line overall, would you say athletic? Would you say powerful? Give me a couple of descriptions that would sum up your offensive line, or is it such a combination that it's tough to reduce it to a couple of things like that?
Yeah, I'd say we kind of have a combination of some things. We got some guys that are a little bit more athletic than others, and we've got some guys that were a little bit more powerful than others. I would say as a whole, they were smart, they were tough. I would say guys that aware, really understood what we were trying to do schematically and understood what the defense was presenting us. Those things kind of come to mind. But from physical attributes, that we kind of had a blend, if you will, from an athletic standpoint and from a power and play strength standpoint.
LC obviously has the tough injury, the ACL, and those. No two ACLs are alike. I mean, the injury's not exactly the same. Surgery's not exactly the same. Rehab's not exactly the same. So you really don't know what you're looking at there. But I guess it would be safe to probably think, man, may not have his services in the early stages of the season, or is that how's his rehab going at this juncture?
From my understanding, it's going well. He's been back in town and rehabbing hard, and in fact, he hollered at me to come watch him do a couple of one leg step ups, if you will, rehabbing
Cool.
with with our trainers to kind of
Nice.
show off where he's at. So he's in good spirits. He's been working hard, and those things are hard to predict. You know, who knows where he's going to come out at the end of that. Like you said, especially today's modern technology, you know, they seem to get back maybe sooner than what they used to back in the day, maybe what you and I have experienced. But
Yep.
but they're all unique. They're all different. So just, you know, you keep your fingers crossed, and hopefully it's sooner than later, and stronger and better than ever. So
In that playoff game in Buffalo, how proud were you of the offensive line play that day?
extremely proud. Had a couple guys in there that had not played a lot, and were playing and got mixed in there, and then Akeem was kind of filling the role the last couple of weeks over on the right side. So 3 total new guys, and they just really played great as a unit and executed at a high level. It was a lot of fun, and to see those guys come, and they worked hard that week. It got a little frothy a couple times in our individual drills. We got a couple of extracurricular scuffles. Guys were
Nice.
were mentally wired in and ready to roll, and chomping at the bit to go out there and go compete in that game. And it was a lot of fun to see those guys step up to the challenge and play as a unit like that.
Now, fans have a pretty good idea of the guys that you talked about, the 10 guys that were on the roster for that playoff game, playoff games against Buffalo and in Kansas City. Tell us a little bit about Devin Cochran. I don't think as many people are as knowledgeable about his game.
Yeah, Devin Cochran is a guy who was an undrafted free agent out of Georgia Tech. He spent early part of his college career at Vanderbilt. So that tells you right away he's very intellectual. He's a smart guy, and on top of that, he can apply that to football. So he's got good football IQ. He's long. He's got great length. He's putting on more weight. I think he needs to continue to grow in that area in the weight room. He's got good feet. What I really liked about is what he did, how he grew over the course of the season in practice, as far as playing with functional bend, leverage, developing anchor throughout the course of the season. He really excelled and improved in those areas. He's a guy that I'm excited to continue to work with, and as far as his developmental curve, but he's another kind of guy. You could say he's kind of similar in some ways with his build with Isaiah Prince. He's got natural height. He's tall. So that's a positive with his length and his arms, but at the same time, it's a challenge for his lower level levers bending and creating natural pad leverage. So that's something that he really improved on, did a nice job working on over the course of the year.
So free agency is upon us, obviously, and there are some offensive linemen still out there. In the economics of it are obviously the major issue. It's all about the dollars. But how impressed are you with what's out there in free agency still as potential opportunity to improve the football team?
Yeah, I mean there's a couple guys out there that I think, as far as not to speak out of my lane a little bit, but as far as what the cap dollars that they're going to be calling and demanding might be a little bit out of our budget, but
Right.
good quality players. And then you got guys that are still out there that have got playing experience, been in the league for a reason, that can maybe bring some depth, if you will, or compete for some roles that might open up. But it's nothing new as far as what's out there and available. Maybe the guys that are on the high end sign quickly with teams that have that space. But there's some quality guys out there, I think, still that can fill the void around the league. Or not that I've could speak to all 50 free agents that are out there, but just some of the guys that I have seen and watched tape on or recognize what they bring to the table. There's some quality players out there.
It's it's a known, obviously, at the end of every year. The following year, the team's going to be different in terms of makeup, and offensive line is too. I mean, there's no exception to the rule. There's a good number of guys, that you're dealing with from an offensive line standpoint. So it stands to reason that just from a numbers scenario alone, there's going to be some sort of change, some sort of
Right.
turnover. So we talk about the veteran free agents. Let's talk about the some of the linemen that are out there, Coach, in terms of draft possibilities. The top 10 offensive tackles or whatever. And I know you're in the early stages of it. I don't know how much you've evaluated these guys, but I know you're in the process of making some decisions on where you're going to visit and all that sort of thing, and what guys you might really pursue heavily. But how about a guy like Peter Scaronsky? I'm not sure he'll be there late in the first round, but the big tackle out of Northwestern. Are there any similarities to Rashawn Slater, or are they totally different?
No, I think they're a little similar. I think Slater had more length to him. Maybe he had a little edge as far as athleticism, but he's a good player. He's fun to watch. I just recently watched his tape. He plays with great demeanor. His feet are always underneath him. He's rooted and both run and pass. He's excellent at sustaining his blocks. He sticks on both levels. He runs his feet. He's got excellent proprioceptive skills. He was a lot of fun to watch. He maximizes his length. I think he doesn't come in as far as great measured length, but he plays with length. He may be a guy that might be more interesting moving inside because of that. But he's got the feet. He's got the football IQ. He plays hard. He runs really well. He shows up in space. He brings a lot to the table. He'd be a fun guy to coach from what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, looking at a little of his stuff, his balance, like you mentioned, he's got that struck me. Wow, this dude's got some balance, and his hands look pretty good too. What about Paris Johnson Jr., the big boy out of Ohio State? What do you think of him, Coach?
He's another guy that's very athletic. He's been mainly a guard, and I think his tackle tape has got way more upside because he only really shows 1 year of that. So any deficiencies that he's shown, I think is stuff he's on the rise in that area. He's got great length. He uses it. He's a guy that plays physical. Ohio State's got two guys. They're both a lot of fun to watch.
Right.
They're both going to have bright futures.
Let's talk about the other one, DeJuan Jones. Mammoth. Yeah. I mean, 6'8". Who knows what he weighs? 360, 370, 380, whatever he weighs. 89-inch wingspan is what I saw. Man, oh, man. And my question on a guy, when you get looking at a guy that big, how good is his recoverability?
Yeah, he knows how to use that wingspan and that length. He uses it, and a lot of it's because he's talented that way, but also out of necessity. He might not be the top end foot athlete as some guys are,
right?
But he makes up for that with great hand use, great length, and he can recover because of his hand use that allows his feet to catch up. So he can. And there's some things that everyone needs to clean up with their footwork that can help him be more efficient. But he's got outstanding hand use, and I would argue that some of the top that I've seen so far about playing with length, using his hands independently, and he's got a much better movement skills than I was anticipating for a man his size. I was pleasantly surprised and enjoyed watching his tape, and he's got nasty as well. He wants to put his hands on you and finish you, and that really stood out to me.
Sweet. Talk about movement. This dude, looking at him a little bit, Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma, man, he is smooth. His feet are smooth, and his body and his hands everything looks like it's in sync. In terms of being smooth that way. Is he that athletic?
Yeah, he's in my opinion what you're looking for at that left tackle spot. That's got the high end feet. It's got length, and they're coordinated. His feet and hands are coordinated. They work together really well. and he's played against a high level comp. But he's what you're looking for out there in space as far as an athlete is concerned. I think he can fit in multiple schemes. He's not limited to a scheme standpoint. So he's a guy that teams are going to want to, target and try to draft. He's a quality player.
So Broderick Jones, another guy I wanted to talk about, a redshirt sophomore out of Georgia, 6'4", 310 pounds. He's a low percentage of body fat. I noticed that a little bit. He moves people, doesn't he? I mean, he's a strong dude, it looked like.
He's strong. He's long. He's a little light. You can put on some more weight and develop in that areas. And I think he really excels in space pulling out on the perimeter. He's a devastating blocker. He can flush up, fits out there, and put guys on the ground. It's impressive watching that guy pull on perimeter plays.
A guy named Cody Mock out of North Dakota State. When I look at this guy, I see 6th-year senior, so he's obviously older. He's played a lot of football. Came out of high school as like a 220-pound tight end, so he's athletic. Is he a multi-position player because of that athleticism? Hey, Dave Lapham here to tell you about one of Cincinnati's fastest-growing companies, First Star Logistics. They're currently drafting freight brokers to join their sales team. Apply at firststarlogistics.com.
First Star Logistics, opportunity knocking.
Yeah, Senior Bowl, he was snapping the ball as well. So he's a guy that can play, I think, in multiple spots and develop because of his athleticism. He was a tight end, converted tight end. So tough guy. Another North Dakota State product like Cordell Volson.
Yep.
He's missing his 2 front teeth, which always adds to the that O-line image that you kind of like to be around those type of guys. He's a lot of fun to talk to, but he's a guy that's got another lot of upside because of that athleticism and a guy that's on a lot of radars, obviously, because of it. He had a great Senior Bowl week.
Speaking of Cordell Volson, since we were talking about this young man from North Dakota State, what kind of a season did Cordell Volson have for you?
I think he had a solid season. He got better every week. His understanding of as far as what we're teaching him, technique fundamentally, grew every week. His awareness as far as the scheme grew every week. I thought he just got better every week. Did a nice job. Looking forward to having him back and take that next giant step in his second year. Now he's going to have way more confidence from day one, understanding what we're trying to do, and being more in attack mode and maybe a little bit less in reactionary mode.
Right.
Where he needs to be with his footwork and hand placement, being in year 2, to really take that giant step forward. But he's made up of all the right stuff. He's smart. He's tough as nails, and he's just going to keep getting better.
Man, you hit on something right there, Coach. I remember that. Come back after a year under your belt as a starter. That second year as a starter, it's like you didn't know what you didn't know, so you weren't all that confident, and you were the counter puncher instead of the puncher. You come back for year 2. Now you feel like I'm getting after you, man. I'm gonna punch you a little bit, dude. That's huge. I think that's the biggest thing for an offensive lineman from year 1 to year 2 starter. You hit right on it, man. My opinion. All right, so Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, 6'6", 335-pounder. Dude looks like a brick wall, man. It looks like he's got, some guys are strong, and then other guys that have functional football strength. They may not be weight room strong, but functional football strength, all the attachments and stuff. This dude looks like a brick wall, functional, strong dude, is he?
He is. He's sneaky athletic. He's got nimble feet for his size, and he can move people. Some of his combinations and double team fits are impressive. Moving defenders off the ball on his Tennessee tape, but he looks to play long and maximize his length as well at times, which is good to see. But he's a guy that, as big as he is, and as you said, he's more functional, strong. He's surprisingly nimble on his feet, and he's playing against the top end talent in the SEC now every week. So
right.
It's not like he's getting a every now and then guy off the edge. It's every week in that conference.
Blake Freeland out of BYU, 6'8", 305. He looks nimble. I mean, for that long body, he's got some nimbleness to him now. Power probably isn't his primary asset, but looks like he's pretty nimble.
Yeah, he had off the charts combine workout. I mean, it was very impressive what he's able to do with the combine. You watch his tape. He's a guy that I really love how he carries his hands in his pass pro. He does a nice job with that. He can use his hands. He can use his hands independently. He's squaring his sets. I think he continues to grow, put on strength and size as Frank can clearly handle it.
Right.
That's only going to help his game long term. But I think that guy's got a bright future as well, especially what he's able to showcase his athleticism. That's kind of his calling card. And I think as he puts on more size and strength over the course of early in his career, he's just going to continue to get better and better because he brings a lot to the table that way.
He was a 4-year starter. He played 2 years at right tackle, 2 years at left tackle. Do you like that versatility aspect?
Versatility. He's got experience on both sides.
Yeah.
So that's good to see. But the same thing with the Tennessee kid. He played on the left side for most of his career. And this last year, he bumped over to the right for necessity for Tennessee's team. So he's a guy that's got multiple flex. The cat from Ohio State was a guard and then jumped out to tackle. So that's just impressive what those guys bring, that flexibility that you covet and need at this league. You can only dress so many guys, and sometimes you got to move guys around when you hit the injury bug. So
right. Okay, how about from my alma mater, Matt Bergeron from Syracuse, Syracuse. Matt Bergeron, 6'5", 322. Looks like he's run game asset. Looking at him though, maybe I'm being overly critical, but looks like his chin's over his toes a little bit sometimes, a little bit top heavy. Am I off on that, or am I?
No, he's a power player. He wants to play with power and upper body strength, maybe not so much with his feet. He's new to he's Canadian.
Yeah.
So, I think football's relatively new to him. He kind of came out of nowhere. It was a great story how he found his way to Syracuse. He kind of found them, and they were kind of like, this is too good to be true. Where'd you come from?
Right.
Is just raw athleticism and movement skills and power that he brought. But great combine interview with him. Really enjoyed. He's very mature. I think he's got nothing but upside as well as he continues to grow and understanding the game. But he's a good, strong power guy. I think he's a guy that could probably benefit from maybe moving inside as well. Look at him in there. But his tape's fun to watch as well. He's physical. He looks to finish guys. Impressive.
So, Coach, how deep is this draft? Is the draft top heavy with offensive line? Are there guys at every stage of the draft potentially? How deep is the offensive line draft this year?
Yeah, my early stages getting into this, I would say it's not very top heavy. It's a little bit just one notch below that.
Okay.
I see that's where I think most of the talent is, but the offensive line, that's I would say where you rank guys or value guys, but old linemen are every team's trying to find more guys, so they tend to get pushed up in rounds, maybe higher than what teams may have them graded in, just because of the necessity, the need. But it seems to me the bulk of those guys is kind of not a lot of guys like, oh, this guy's a top 10, top 12 pick. Like a few years ago, there was 5 guys I think went in the first 12 picks.
Yeah.
Was that, I want to say 2019 or something, maybe 2020. I don't see that in this year's class, but that next tranche of guys, there's a few interesting guys that are going to be all bunched up in there, and how you kind of rank and file those guys will be interesting.
And there's always a guy or more than one, mid-round, late round, even college free agents. I mean, there are guys that make it in the NFL as an offensive lineman and from all different types of starting points. And it boils down to traits, characteristics, things that you have to have. And if they have those, it's a good starting point. And then guys develop at different stages. Some guys develop later. What are a couple of those traits or characteristics that they have to have when you're considering them? When you're considering, I want to spend my time coaching these guys. Give me a couple of things they got to have.
Well, some physical attributes are length.
Yep.
And if it's not the high-end length, do they maximize the length, play with the length they have, or at least show you that they can, that you can continue to develop that.
Yep.
Balance. You got to have balance. To me, I always look for efficient footwork. Can they move their feet with a distance and direction that's applicable to the play that you're watching on tape? So that they have the ability to move their feet. And then none of that really matters at the end of the day. For me, the number one trait is the intangibles. I mean, a guy that loves ball and he's smart and tough, those guys will develop. The other guys will flash some things, but they don't have the intangibles to retain and continue to grind and develop. They're just never going to get better. They're always going to kind of be stuck in that rut of maybe, shoulda, coulda, woulda, the potential that never comes to fruition. It's interesting to hear, like, give me some adversity that you've had to overcome and work through, because that's what this league's all about. Like, you talk about those guys that get drafted late. Usually they were never given anything. They had to fight and earn everything that they've gotten to where they've gotten. And when they get to the league, it's just no big deal to have to grind and work to continue to get better. They didn't have all those high-end measurables that pushed them in the top of the draft. So they found a way, and usually it's because of those intangibles. But you got to have some sort of decent measure of length. So when you are playing with length, I mean, if you've got 31-inch arms, it's not going to matter.
Right.
If you're maxed out. The talent is going to overcome you, and you can't get around that deficiency. You want guys with just the baseline movement skills, whether it be lateral movement skills, not so much straight line, but a guy who can change direction, and change direction in what I call a demeanor or football position, being somewhat rooted and not top heavy, not a waist bender. Some guys will have levels or degrees of how much they waist bend. Sometimes it depends on what they're having to do. That'll show up more like when they're looking to anchor against a power rusher. Some players will tend to be a little bit more waist bendy. Some do it all the time.
Right.
Those guys, to me, that's a biomechanical fatal flaw, in my opinion, if you're just always a waist bender. Mm-hmm. Every now and then, I think you understand you can work around that and teach them other tools to kind of avoid that. But the ability to step with efficiency in your footwork, is line one for O-line play. If you can't move your feet, and then just having some good examples of tape, having balance, whether that's in the run game and sustaining, accelerating your feet, or in pass pro, contact balance. Are you on your feet? Can you stay on your feet, or do you go down? Are you always on the ground? Those are things that jump out at me right away to see if a guy has a chance to ascend. Throw out a couple things there for you.
Excellent. And a couple of guys come to mind. I mean, Cappa, great acquisition in free agency. I mean, the dude, he's got that pass protection, balance, change of direction, length. He's got all the stuff here you talked about there. I mean, I really thought he was playing at a Pro Bowl level. He's a hell of an inside player. And then Ted Karras, and all the intangibles you talked about, he comes in the league, I think, 6th round out of Illinois, I think it was.
Right.
And every intangible you talked about, he's like the top of the chart with respect to it. Most important player category, not most valuable, but most important player. Man, he's right there with anybody. I mean, Ted Karras was big time for this football team, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's quarterbacking your offensive line, and that's
right.
5 out of 11 players on offense is your offensive line. So,
yep.
And he's making all the calls and the points to get everyone coordinated on the same page. So it starts with that guy, and that guy, that position has got to be a unique individual. I mean, you say the quarterback is the leader of the offense and leads the team. He's that kind of guy. The center is the same kind of guy because he's got to lead the whole unit, the offensive line. So he's off the charts in all those areas and those intangibles, and that's why he's had such a successful career, because he's maximized his natural God-given talent and ability. I mean, I'm a big believer in there's no such thing as an overachiever. Everyone likes to throw that out there for guys who maybe aren't as talented.
Right.
We all want to be considered overachiever. Well, all that is a guy who's maxed out his physical ability. He's efficient. You can underachieve, but you can't overachieve. So that to me he is a guy who's maxed out every ounce of talent that the Lord gave him, and that's why he's had such a great career.
Love that, Coach. I'm going to tell that to my grandchildren. I'm going to use that. That's a great analysis. You know, you can't overachieve. You can maximize what you got, but you certainly can't underachieve, man. You can be lazy and underachieve or whatever. Let's talk about real quick here and get you out here on this. That we talked about LC. What about Cappa coming back from his injury? Jonah coming back from his injury. If the Bengals had won against the Kansas City Chiefs and gone to the Super Bowl, outside chance either or both of those guys might have been able to play, or are they in pretty good shape right now, injury-wise?
Yeah, I think Jonah was a little maybe on the outside looking in. It would have been hard for him to get to that spot, but I know Cappa was hell or high water. He was playing.
He was going.
He was close enough to let it roll and get out there. I think Jonah's injury was a little more significant.
Right.
Might have been a little more dicey, but he's had to have surgery since the season ended, and he's been rehabbing and getting strong and doing well. I know he's kind of ahead of schedule where they tend to be with his diagnosis. I mean, those are better questions for the trainer and
right
and the head coach, but I know Kappa's ankle's been healing up as well, and I think that he'll be good to go when we start our off-season program.
Yeah, Cappa was out there pushing around a two-man sled, getting ready for the Super Bowl. Phi Beta Kappa would have he would have been out there rolling, man.
He's tough as nails.
He is, man. Coach, you got a great group, and you're a hell of a coach. It's a lot of fun to be around your players. They all, like you said, you got to love ball. You guys love ball, man, and I know you do. There's no disputing that whatsoever. And appreciate you visiting with us and carving time. I know it's a busy time here in the off season and putting together next season's crew.
You bet. Always enjoy it, Lap.
Thank you, sir. Have a great week.
You too, bud. Thank you.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.
Hey there, everybody. I'm Dave Lapham, and we do a podcast called In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And if you want to hit the like button on when you're reserving any video, that'd be a good thing to do. And if you want to subscribe and not miss any videos, make sure you do that, because we are going to try to cover the Cincinnati Bengals every way that they can be covered.